Hello everyone! Today we are going to take an existing Django project that is already set up with Docker Compose and convert it into a full dev container for VS Code. This setup will make your development environments more consistent, reproducible and portable. Let's dive in. Before we start configuring our dev container, let's quickly look over what's already in place. Here's our Docker Compose.yaml file for Django project. We have three main services defined: Django, which runs our application code, DB, which is a Postgres database, and Redis, which we'll use as a caching layer. The Django service runs on a port 8000, mounting the application code so it can be accessed directly. DB and Redis both are using pre-built images and have volumes to persist data across our builds. Now that we have reviewed the Docker Compose, let's take a look at the Dockerfile and our Django project directory structure. Here is the Dockerfile we are using for the Django service. Let me walk you through its key components. We are using the latest Python 3.13 image as our base. This sets the working directory inside the container. This copies the requirements.txt file to the container, and this line installs the Python dependencies. This one tells us that port 8000 is exposed, where our Django development server will run. Next, here's our Django project directory. Notice that the src folder contains the Django project files, including the manage.py file and the settings.py file under the dev container directory. We will reference this path in our configurations later. Let's configure the development container by adding a devcontainer.json file. Inside the project root, create a new directory called .devcontainer. And within this directory, create a file called devcontainer.json. Here's what the file may look like. We have a Docker Compose file which references our existing Docker Compose configuration. We have a service which references our Django service from our Docker Compose file. We have a workspace folder, which is a folder within a container that will hold our application files. We have a forward ports key which tells VS Code which ports to forward once container has started, and we have customizations. Currently we are adding two VS Code extensions, Python extension and RAW extension. Once saved, this file will enable us to open the Django service as a dev container directly in VS Code. Now let's make some adjustments to our Docker Compose file to better support the dev container setup. We'll update the command for the Django service to sleep infinity. This keeps the container running indefinitely, allowing us to execute commands manually within the container during development. We also update the volume section for the Django service. This mounts the entire project directory into the container, making all files accessible for editing and debugging. Here is the updated file for the Django service. These changes ensure the container is optimized for development and works seamlessly with the dev container configuration. Next, let's build the container. Open the integrated command palette in VS Code and run the following command: dev containers rebuild without cache and reopen in container. This will build the Django service using the updated Dockerfile and other configurations. Once built, we'll be able to use our dev container as a fully isolated development environment. Finally, let's configure debugging by creating a launch.json file. Let's create a .vscode directory in our project root. Inside this directory, create a launch.json file. This is what your file may look like. We have a program which points to our manage.py file in Django application. We have arguments for our manage.py command, which tell Django server to run on a port 8000, and we have key called Django, which equals to true. It is enabled some specific Django settings for debugging. This configuration allows us to use VS Code's debugger to set breakpoints and inspect code while running the Django server. Now we are ready to test everything. Let's open Debug tab and select our Python Django configuration and run it. Once the server is running, let's head over to localhost 8000 in our browser, and we should see our Django application up and running. This confirms that our dev container is properly set up and connected. If you encounter any issues like connection errors or missing dependencies, check the container logs in Docker on VS Code's terminal for details. Awesome work! We have transformed our Docker Compose setup for Django into a powerful dev container environment within VS Code. This setup enhances our development process by giving us an isolated, reproducible environment tailored specifically for Django. If this video helped you, leave a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions or run into any roadblocks with your own setup. Let me give you a few extra tips. You can use environment variables to make the dev container setup more flexible, or add other Docker Compose services like Celery for complex Django apps. And don't forget to check out VS Code's dev container settings for additional customization options, such as post-create command for dev container setup. Looking for more tutorials like this? Visit our website and channel for in-depth guides, articles, and additional resources. Thanks for watching, and happy coding!